Well, here we are again. Or if this is your first time stopping by or listening or watching, here we are. Today's topic is going to be less informative, less motivational, but hopefully at least mildly interesting. Or maybe I should say it could end up being the most amazing thing you've ever heard. And if you don't listen through to the end, you will never know. That's probably not true, so I'll skip saying that. A few days ago, someone asked me several questions. One of them was, and I'm paraphrasing, if you don't follow the Bible and the God of the Bible, why have or call it a church? Now, before I answer this question, I want to make it plain that you are welcome here no matter what you believe, as long as you don't condemn or speak condescendingly to those who do not share your beliefs, and you do not make this a mission field to convert others to your brand of religion. Now, I knew the answer to the question on one level, but I wanted to make sure I had the proper understanding of the words being used. So I looked up church in the dictionary. 11 of the 14 definitions specified that it was Christian in nature. Out of the remaining 3, the one that comes closest is a place of public worship of a non-Christian religion. But of course, that's not right either. So I went to the synonyms and found basilica, which was a certain type of building used in ancient Rome for court or for public assemblies. So at least basilica is getting closer, even if it is just a synonym. But let's remember that the meanings of words change over time. Today, for example, there's a growing number of members of the Church of the FSM. FSM, in case you don't know, stands for the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and that is a real organization, a real church. And of course, there's the Church of Satan, the most popular of which believes in no supernatural beings at all, and adopted the name Satan for various reasons we're not going to go into today. And then there is Universalist Unitarianism, or the UUC, which is a church that does not hold to any one religion and even has groups for atheists. Originally, we were a fundamentalist evangelical Christian church. Eventually, I realized I was so adamant that I was right, and those who disagreed with me about anything I thought was of any consequence were wrong. Possibly because they weren't as smart as I, or as spiritual, or as educated in matters of the Bible, or they were not filled with the Holy Spirit, or perhaps they just didn't want to know the truth. But eventually, I realized that the people who held conflicting beliefs tended to feel the exact same way. And in conversations with them, they would express the same prideful beliefs about themselves and their doctrines that I did about myself and my own. To me, they were mistaken, didn't understand the Bible, were deceived, or needed spirit baptism. To them, I was mistaken, didn't understand the Bible, was deceived, or didn't really have the Spirit, or just wasn't listening to it. Then there were those in other religions, and I discovered that just as I was fully convinced that my religion was true and theirs was false, they too tended to be fully convinced that their religion was true and mine was false. Faith, strong feelings, personal and group experiences, and a belief in the supposedly scientific, prophetic, or other supernatural properties of their holy books were common threads. And I considered that if faith, experiences, and a belief in seemingly God-breathed ancient texts could lead different people to very different conclusions about truth and reality, then those things are not reliable methods for determining what is real. And as I discovered, if one reads their own chosen holy texts, absent from the presupposition that it is God-breathed and without error, then one is likely to realize that it is full of mythology and unproven or disproven claims. The Quran the Bhagavad Gita, and the Bible. Now, of course, someone who is fully convinced of the absolute truth of, say, the Quran would be as convinced that there are serious problems with the Bible as the fundamentalist Christian would be that the Quran is false or even inspired by demons. Both people might think the problems with the other one's texts are obvious, and that if the other person would just read their book and use a little bit of logic while being fully open to the true God's revelation of its truth, then they would definitely see the error of their way. The thing is, I was in the religion I was raised being taught was true. Before I had reached the age of reason, I had already been indoctrinated with truth claims that were, in many ways, unreasonable. And just like the majority of people raised Buddhist remain Buddhist, raised Muslim remain Muslims, and raised Hindu remain Hindus, and just as they remained fully convinced that they were raised in the one true religion, so I was convinced as well. So keep that in mind the next time you're tempted to cling to your beliefs as though they are undeniably true. Given the number of conflicting religious beliefs out there and the conviction with which people hold them in the highest regard, it's statistically more likely that yours is wrong than it is that yours just happens to be the one that's right. So regardless of which one it is, your religion probably isn't the right one. Okay, so let's get back to the question. Why church? Well, the simple answer is, why not? In the modern usage of the word, a church can be a group of like-minded people who meet together to perhaps have some sort of ceremony or ritual, or perhaps to sing, or maybe to hear some sort of message, and to do those things together instead of by oneself. And I've heard from a number of people who left their religion's church and they missed some of the things they liked about it, whether it was the rituals or ceremonies, the singing, the inspirational sermons, and almost always, the people. So, there you go. A simple answer. We just happened to take a slight detour to get there, but we took that detour for a reason. As a church, or a group of family or friends, or an assembly or gathering, it would behoove us to avoid getting trapped in the us and others mindset that permeates the vast majority of churches and similar groups of people out there. This mindset says that if they don't believe like we do, they're unintelligent or unspiritual or deceived by the devil, or they just don't want to know the truth. And if they don't believe like we do, they'll reincarnate into a lowly life or will be burned alive in a never-ending and perfectly deserved payment for their sin of disbelief. Of course, neither claim has met the burden of proof, and until it does, we can be intellectually honest only if we don't accept them as settled facts until sufficient evidence is presented. But what we can be fairly certain of is that we exist. We desire companionship and community, and there is something special about meeting together, celebrating life, and pondering how we can live that life more fully as we help make this world a better place in which to live. And that is why we have church, or whatever you want to call it, to promote love, to promote freedom, to promote goodwill, to promote empathy and acceptance, and to have a good time doing it. Religion tends to break up families, cause wars, inspire suicide, and distract people from making the most of the one life we have by claiming that this is only the beginning of our eternal life, which will begin after this inferior life ends. I believed that believing in Jesus was all that mattered, and that death was the very beginning of our never-ending life in heaven. Because of that, I did not take this life all that seriously outside of my dedication to the Bible and its God. Education was an afterthought. Income was not all that important, for, as Jesus supposedly said, God meets all my needs, and I should make the seeking of His kingdom my central focus, and everything else would be given to me. Pardon my French, but this is horseshit. Your life is important. This life, the only life anyone actually knows you have. Are you taking measures to make sure you are provided for both now and in the future? Are you taking the time to figure out what makes you happy, what you enjoy, what you can do to bring in the necessary income while enabling you to live your life to the fullest? Biblical Christianity teaches that if, for example, you are homosexual, you should live alone and be celibate for the rest of your earthly life. Because after all, eternity in heaven in total bliss is much better than experiencing romantic love in this short life and then as a result burning in agony for all eternity in hell. But as far as the evidence is concerned, hell does not even exist. So you will most likely have lived a life of lonely sexual frustration for nothing. And then it's all over. No second chance at life. No second chance at love. Now, of course, you won't know you wasted your life on unproven and unprovable religion, but the honest truth is that your life was raped by a stone-aged religion that has absolutely no genuine evidence and mountains of evidence that make it clear that it is nothing more than mythology. Live! If you can prove that there is something beyond this life and that it is affected by this life, please share your evidence with the scientific community. There's a Nobel Prize and the adoration of the elites waiting for you. But if you can't, and no one currently has, then live by the evidence at hand. Live as though this is the only shot at life you have. And if I'm wrong, which I could be, and there really is a despot in the sky who hates you because you used the mind religious folks claim he has given you, then whatever torment he can throw at you is certainly better than trying to fool him, her, it, or them into thinking you're sincere as you lie for all eternity about how amazingly wonderful they are. And that is the end of my non-offensive, politically correct, friend-winning presentation. I love truth. I hate lies. I detest manipulation. And if you're hoping that I'll validate speculation and fantasy, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're hoping that I'll validate you, then that is exactly what I'm going to do. You are one of a kind. You are the only you who will ever exist. You are priceless, beautiful, and perfect exactly the way you are. And we love you, really and truly, just the way you are. Let's go ahead and close today's meeting. And you're invited to take a few minutes as we play a little bit of music to just reflect. Let anything of value sink in and just consider the value of making the most of today, of this life, of the one that you know you have. And in a few minutes, we're going to head out to the garden, which is head out the front of the church and keep on going, and you'll get there. And if you'd like to talk with somebody, ask any questions, or curse me out, free to do that as well. You can either instant message one of us, or you can go to almcyberchurch.org and click the director's offices link, and you can contact us there. And whether you stay for the get-together here in a few minutes, or if you need to go, I hope that the rest of your day and your week are filled with joy, with love, and with fullness of life.